Welcome to The Disruption Is Now. Join us on this enlightening journey as we explore how AI is impacting our jobs, careers, lives, and the human experience. Each episode, host Greg Matusky will converse with visionaries and innovators at the forefront of AI, diving into its challenges, opportunities, and impact. So buckle up as we venture into the heart of disruption, and together, let's unfold the future.
Well, welcome to another episode of The Disruption Is Now, the podcast where we talk about all things AI. I'm pretty excited about our guest today because we're coming at it in a different direction. A lot of times we're talking about generative AI and how it's impacted my industry, public relations, because I'm also the founder and CEO of Gregory FCA. But today we're going to talk to Dr. Jeff Schneider, and he is a research professor at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He's a distinguished expert in machine learning with 15 years experience working, developing algorithms for government science and industrial applications. And he's been a pioneer in data mining and also has written and done many published studies in the field. He co-founded Shenley Park Research, which led to a major project in drug discovery, and was instrumental, and this is very interesting to me, in launching Uber's autonomous driving program there in Pittsburgh. So thanks for being with us, Dr. Schneider. Did I get that right? Did I sum that up?
Yeah, thank you. That was great. Yeah.
Now, let me ask you, we'll begin. How in the world does Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania become a center of machine learning, artificial intelligence, and robotics?
Yeah. It's a great question. For people that don't know history, that might be surprising. For those that do, it's not surprising at all. It goes back to Herb Simon and Alan Newell, who were among the AI pioneers going back to the 50s. When literally we're back at the time when we're deciding what should we call this thing? Let's call it artificial intelligence. And so those were two CMU folks, of course, Herb Simon, the Nobel laureate, who were here and had a big role in founding the computer science effort at CMU. And then following that, the efforts in robotics and all those things that led to AI and made CMU really the place to go for AI.
You know, when I was there, I was visiting Innovation Works in Pittsburgh a couple months ago, and I looked out of the offices, which are beautiful. The center there is really a nice research center. And I saw, I think it was Caterpillar or John Deere had an autonomous driving research construction equipment facility right next door. And I was like, wow, this is really for real what they're doing here.
Yeah, one of the amazing things, and this goes back quite a while. This is sort of mid 2000s when CMU did a bunch of work for Caterpillar, and I don't know if you've seen these videos, but the trucks they use in mining operations, they're just like the dump trucks you see on the road or you get as a toy for Christmas, except they're like 10 times the size of any truck that you see anywhere else in the world.
They take half a mountain away with them.
Yeah, they're just enormous. And CMU worked with them to develop autonomy for those trucks. And they sell them around the world now. That's a product for them. There's nobody driving those trucks. And they just run around the mines on their own.
And this tech transfer from CMU, Carnegie Mellon University, to industry has been very successful over the years. Tell us a little bit, which surprises most people, about Uber's interest in autonomous driving there in Pittsburgh and some of the role you played in that.
Right, absolutely. That was very exciting times because, again, we can ask the question of what were they doing in Pittsburgh, and again to take that history story and move it forward a little bit. So if you go to the 80s, all the self-driving car work started here at CMU in the 80s. That was really one of the
amazing. It's amazing to really learn, because in the popular world, in the consumer world, right, AI began when November of 2022, right, when ChatGPT was introduced. But really, this legacy goes much further back and has had its fits and starts in the past too.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So going back to the 80s, that was when self-driving started here. And then what happened as you scroll forward, there were some very cool milestones. There in 95, CMU did it was called the No Hands Across America project. They took one of our vans and drove it from Pittsburgh to LA without steering. It was like,
and that was 85. That was 85.
That was 95.
95.
So the effort started in the 80s. By 95, there was essentially a lane keeping system that could already drive from Pittsburgh to LA. So that was demonstrated in the 90s, and then so, by the real one. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. Go.
I was going to say that the real sort of watershed moment then was in 2007. DARPA did this Urban Grand Challenge where they set up a mock city and they invited teams to participate and build self-driving cars to drive around this. Maybe town is a better word than city, because it was completely a mock. And they did a contest with it. And so CMU won that contest in 2007. And that was the point when Google started its self-driving car program. That was like the wake-up call. Like, oh, wow, we had no idea. This works. These cars drive around this town and there's nobody driving. And so that's when Google started. And then, again, scroll forward to your original question. Now, if we scroll forward to 2015, Uber finally looks at this and says, wow, we just disrupted the entire taxi industry. And the one thing that could disrupt all of us is our app really is nothing more than connecting a rider to a driver. What if there's no driver? and that's when Uber sort of said, hey, we better do something about this.
So let's go back then. Google's interest in that was all around Google Maps, I assume. Am I right?
Yeah, Google Maps, and I think looking farther ahead at that point, people. This has been a complaint about Google for some time, that they've often had a lot of money, and sometimes they take on projects just because they look like fun and they've got a lot of money. And so in 2007, I don't think they had a clear view of what would really come from it. But Maps was certainly one of them.
So what is that clear view today as far as autonomous driving, do you think? I mean, I read a lot about Elon Musk, and his real interest is just more sensory input into his model from autonomous driving. I don't know if that's legitimate or not, but...
Well, at this point, there's a couple different things. One is the safety angle. So... of course, it's around 40,000 people that die on U.S. roads every year. And then you take that number and multiply it by 30 or so to get the worldwide number. And the U.S. government has studied, like, what happened? What went wrong in these things? And it turns out there's two big pieces of the pie. I'm giving you rough numbers because I remember the exact numbers, but 40+% is essentially people not paying attention. And so, and we know what distracts us when we're driving now. Another 40+% is people just making bad decisions, driving too fast for the conditions, not understanding what's going on, not recognizing what other drivers are up to. And then you've got the small things that happen, the various mechanical things and other details that happen. And so anyway, we look at that, and it's obvious that 90% of these things could be solved by just getting the human out of that driver's seat, because they are the problem in over 90% of the incidents. And so that's one opportunity for why do you want to do this anyway? The second opportunity is if we look at literally the cost, and so like if you look at an Uber ride, for example, they keep adjusting things, but around 80% of the fare we pay goes to the driver. Now that includes their car and everything else, but But that driver is an expensive part of that trip. So if you can take the driver out, you save that. It's even more true for long-haul trucking. So many of the self-driving car companies have moved on to say, oh, we want to do long-haul trucking instead, because that's a job that people like to do even less. And there's even more money at stake there. So it's a bigger opportunity.
So that, you think that's the low-hanging fruit, would be long-haul trucking? I mean, I had envisioned a few years ago that we would see caravans in the evening or the night of autonomous trucks moving down the Pennsylvania Turnpike from Philadelphia to Pittsburgh. Haven't seen that yet. And in fact, I was listening to a podcast with Sam Altman, and he had said when he set out on this journey, the jobs he thought were most at risk would be truck drivers and manufacturing jobs, one from autonomous driving and the other from robotics. And he said, well, it's upside down. The ones that are most at risk are white collar, high paid jobs, he says. So what's been the delay? Why haven't we seen this as quickly as we thought we would?
Yeah, exactly. Well, the big lag is just safety. That's we all complain or make fun or post about it when ChatGPT tells us something stupid. But for the most part, if it drafts a bad email for me and I have to fix it, no one dies. But once you're in the physical world, if a robot, which is, what a self-driving vehicle is, if it screws up, people can die. And so that's been really the delay on that front, is the extra effort people have put into making 100% sure they're safe. We can imagine what it would be like if they refused to release ChatGPT until they were sure it would never say anything stupid.
Right. So where do you think we're at? If the goal is 100%, right? Are we at 89%, 92%, 97%, 99.9%?
Yeah, I think I want to mention one thing there. I don't think the goal is 100%. But the goal definitely is to do better than a human driver. And on that metric, I think we're doing pretty well. If you look at the Waymo cars now, Google's effort, in the areas where they operate in pretty specific areas that they've trained pretty heavily on. Those cars are quite good. It's hard to get the exact statistics, but I suspect they might already be better than human drivers.
Well, that's interesting, exciting. Let me ask you, I'm a child of the Yins-Use line. You know what that is?
I don't know that one.
Well,
I know
between
Yins,
Pennsylvania on the Pittsburgh side, it's Yins.
Right.
And here in Philadelphia, today I'm actually out of my New York office, but it's Use, right? Use guys. And I was born in Western Pennsylvania in the Yin side. Yep. And I migrated to the Use side when I was a bit older. And when I drive in those small little towns, the highest paying job is often long haul drivers, truck drivers, right?
Yeah.
And you see, $120,000, $150,000 home. Next to it is a Freightliner that costs $250,000. I don't know how much it costs.
Right.
But
yep.
And they're getting paid six figures in a small town in Lewistown, Pennsylvania, right? Yeah. What do you think that does to job creation for those individuals?
Oh, well, I think they're not going to have trouble with jobs. This is one of the things that comes up obviously about AI, but I think it's maybe a misunderstanding of current economics for us to worry too much about those specific jobs. So if we lose track because we're at a unique time in history. We don't have enough workers, like across the board. The inflation has been caused by not enough workers. Everyone I go to, they can't get enough workers. Uber doesn't have enough drivers. Their Call centers don't have enough people. I talk to folks who run the emergency call centers. They can't hire enough people to answer the phones. Anyone who's tried to get work done on their house, on their car, or tried to go to a busy restaurant has found there's not enough people working there. And that's not even to speak of, you mentioned the white collar jobs. The folks working in AI, they cannot, in spite of the high profile layoffs at Google and the other tech companies, we have a drastic shortage of AI expertise. Everybody wants to hire these folks. So I think we have to recognize that we're in unique times. And so to get back to your original question, those drivers that obviously have skills, and this is going to sound terrible, but obviously have the ability to learn a tough job and do that job and show up and be reliable, they will not have a problem with jobs.
Yeah, I have to share with you, my interest in AI started about 4 years ago when my son, who is a CMU grad, who took a couple courses in machine learning, I guess. He was material science, right, major, and he got his MBA there at Tepper right after in the 5-year program. And he told me, Dad, your business is going to be disrupted by AI, and the only thing you can do to protect yourself is to master AI, generative AI, right?
Right.
And he challenged me to learn. He said he could recreate the writing process digitally. So we started this long journey, and we wrote a lot of different. We came up with every kind of content we write in my firm, right? And then we came up with all the information you would need to write that content, and we put it in a database. And then ChatGPT came out, and we were both joyous because we saw it could help us, that I could help train other people how to become good communicators. And if I could have them master AI, I thought, and it's proving to be the case, that they'll always have a viable career. But if they don't master it, that's when you're at risk. So my firm is very committed to this, and we hold 2 training courses a week on just not content, but also brainstorming and workflow. Like there's 1,000 ways to re-engineer the workflow to have more efficiency. And I think that's overlooked a lot of times, is that innovation isn't just a breakthrough. It's doing more with less, right? That's the real drive. And we're doing more with less, which allows us to do more for clients.
Right.
That makes happier clients. Our clients really don't care if it's machine generated or human generated. If it's well done and it serves its purpose and it's done on time at a reasonable price, they're buying all they can get.
Right.
So I agree with you 100%. It does take, though, a kind of a coalition of the willing who are willing to, and in my industry, it's hard because you get a lot of pushback.
Right.
And a lot of it, the pushback comes from, for instance, people that don't want to give up their status as an expert, a PR expert, right?
Yeah.
They don't want to share and collaborate because they know that other people might be a threat then, right? So there's a lot of reasons people push back on it. You had mentioned earlier about the hallucinations, and it always fascinates me. Yeah, AI will make it's not meant to be perfect, right? The very essence of generative AI is supposed to give you lots of alternatives. And when you give alternatives, some of them can be silly and crazy, and there might be some sense in all those, right?
Right. Yeah.
But did you ever go to Google and put in a search? I mean, they're biased by the need to generate revenue. The first 5 hits aren't real information. They're just sucking you into a lead gen trap somehow.
Right.
So we have this standard with AI that I really don't understand. But I think in my business, because we're not coders, right? We're writers mostly. We're content. And we know with content, it can go in 1,000 different directions. So I think we're flexible thinkers, and we're willing to accept a lot of different approaches. But if you're a coder, 2 + 2 better equal 4 every time. And if it doesn't, But as a writer and you're creative, right, you go, oh man, 2 + 2 = 5. Maybe I could take that 5 and move it around a little and do something that would really be different and unique. So it is interesting. Let's go into robotics, right?
Yeah.
Which is another area that Pittsburgh's known for, that you've done a lot.
Yeah.
Help me understand, everyone sees the robot. We love the human form, and that's very enticing and intriguing and sexy. But what is it doing? What is it processing? Like, what's the machine learning and the AI aspect of that it knows how to adjust to become stable or stand upright? I mean, how does that all work?
Yeah, exactly. And so it turns out the architecture for it is really almost identical to what you see in a self-driving car. A self-driving car is just a robot. But to get back to your question, the classical architecture actually goes, modular, step by step, and the first step is, okay, figure out where I am. It's called localization. So it's often got a map. Somebody gave it a map already of wherever it's going to be deployed.
And a map is what, a model or of the world?
Yeah, it could be. It varies. In some cases, it could be as simple as, well, somebody just gave me GPS and Google Maps so I can match the two. In other cases, like you said, it's literally a 3D reconstruction of the whole world that it's going to be operating in. And so the very first thing it does is just answer the question, where am I? And so once it knows where am I, the next thing it goes to is, okay, what else or who else is here with me? And so that's, most commonly that's a vision system. And that's a pure machine learning system, right? These are trained with supervised learning. This is the thing where you have a person look at lots of images and they draw a box around everything you care about. Like, that's a person, that's a table, that's a chair. And then you train that with machine learning so that it can recognize that. And then once you've figured out who's with me here, then you try to figure out, well, what are they doing? So you try to estimate, where are the other movers in the scene going to move to? And once you have that prediction, then you run something called a planner, which means I have my model of who's here with me, where they're all going, and now I'm going to say, well, hypothetically, if I moved forward and to the right, what would happen? If I move forward and to the left, what would happen? If I turn around, what would happen? If I raise my arm, what would happen? And so that planner considers all those possibilities, and it evaluates something called a cost function. And so that the cost function would be something like, well, if I crash into something, that's a negative. I was given some task by my human operator. If I accomplish the task, that's a positive. And so it evaluates all these plans to see which one has the highest value.
So, my world of generative AI, right? There's not nearly as many variables in language, I think, right, than there is in creating a perception of the world, right? And I think we saw that with Sora, is that it ran for about 1 to 3 minutes, but after that, is the dog going to go left? Is the dog going to go right? Is the dog going to disappear? In language, there are rules, right, which we still don't understand, I don't think, from generative, but there's only so many ways you can go, right? The cow jumps over the moon 99% of the time.
Yeah.
How do you manage that in a robotics system? It just seems as if, to me, there's so many variables and there's so many different directions it could go with its own understanding of the world.
Yeah, exactly. So what happens is, once it generates this plan, and it depends on the application, but the plan might be something that's literally like only 10 seconds long. But it could be any number, but I'll use 10 seconds. Once a robot generates that plan, what am I going to do for the next 10 seconds? What it does is it only takes the first step of the plan. And the first step might only be 1/10 of a second long. It'll take that first step And then it's going to go back and repeat the whole process again. Okay, now where am I? Who's here with me? What are they doing? What should I do? And so what happens is, if that prediction about what's going to happen next in the world is just completely wrong, it gets lots of chances to get it right.
So it's a self-correcting loop.
It's a self-correcting loop, right? Yeah, it just takes that first step, and then it goes again. Did things turn out the way I expected? If not, I've got to change my predictions about what's going to happen.
Which is, in the world of visual AI, there is that. That's not been built yet, but that's what they're thinking about, right? Is that when the image is rendered, right, it sees it. Oh, a car can't drive through a wall. It corrects it, and the car goes around the wall in the image, right? With some sort.
Right.
Let me end by asking you some questions about the future.
Yeah.
And where you think we're headed, and what the workplace of the future is going to look like, Dr. Schneider, because everybody, this is so new. I don't know about you, but I look at this. You've been at this, you have much deeper knowledge, and you've been working in this field a lot longer. To a lot of us, we feel like I used to say, the world moves fast. But since AI became popular, the world's moved a lot faster, it seems like.
Right.
Now I can say the world really does move fast. Like in my industry, there was very little innovation for 20 years.
Right.
But man, you better innovate every day now.
Yeah.
So what does the future look like, do you think? And what advice could you give me or people that are listening?
Yeah, exactly. So there's lots of things that are somewhat easy to predict. Like the self-driving cars and stuff. It's taking longer than we thought, but it's happening. We're not going to waste hours driving anymore. We're gonna be, if we have a long commute, we're gonna be sitting in the back seat checking our email already before we even get to work, or taking a nap on the way or whatever. So that one's easy to predict, because that's going well and already. Other things that are fascinating. So other work I do is I'm using AI to work on nuclear fusion, to figure out how to get clean energy from nuclear fusion in tokamaks. That's farther off, but when we get limitless clean energy, that's is going to be disruptive, to our lifestyle. We will not have to worry about the energy problems anymore. So if you think, like, many of our world grand challenges are actually energy problems. Global warming comes from our need to create energy. Food scarcity, water scarcity.
Wars.
Yep. We don't really have those scarcities. It just takes a lot of energy to solve them. And so once we have that clean, limitless energy, that's really going to help us with a lot of problems. So that one's farther off, but that one's, that one is coming too. We'll get that figured out using AI to help us get there. And then the more interesting one is maybe where you started. In this world of generative AI, what's a day in the office going to look like? And that one, I think, is harder to predict, because we're right in the really fast-moving part of what generative AI does right now. What we are going to increasingly have is tools all around us, agents, if you want to think of it that way, that with the help of generative AI are communicating on our behalf in many ways that are teammates at our jobs. And so it's harder to predict the exact flavor of how that's going to look, but I think that will be quite different.
Agents are going to be very disruptive to my business, and that's part of the preparation. It would be being able to set off your agents to do your workflow, right? To really go out, research something, and then come back with it. Or in our world, we do a lot of media relations. It's to go out, look at the whole world of media, and find where there's not been reporting on a certain subject that needs reporting, right? That you could convince somebody to report. So agents are going to be very disruptive in the white collar community. And that's one of the things that we're really trying to, at Gregory FCA, get everyone to master just the basics of generative AI, so that when that comes, we're prepared for it.
Right.
So overall, it's not going to ruin civilization, you don't think?
I'm not worried about AI ruining civilization. It's right that people take it seriously. As with all new technologies, we should take them seriously and, address the goods and the bads. But I think the goods outweigh the bads here. And I think things are going to get better as a result.
Dr. Schneider, I really want to thank you for your time today. And I want to thank you for your optimistic overview. I share that. I just think in the future in work, I think we're going to have more decisions, more alternatives than ever. Right? What is our alternative today? You work a 40-hour work week. But I do think there'll be people that are super creators, can work 5 hours a week and pay the bills. And then there are people who will be super creators who want to work 40 hours a week and make even more wealth. And I think that opportunity will be available. And I think your work on nuclear fusion is something people don't really realize. Much of what drives our world today is lack of energy, right? Much of the bad comes from a lack of energy. And where there's energy, there's life. So I wish you good luck on that journey, and I'll be watching you carefully. And thanks for being with us.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. It's been great.
This podcast is a production of Gregory FCA. If you enjoyed our discussion today and want to continue exploring the transformative power of AI, please check out more episodes and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.